Picture this, you're helping your elderly father manage his money, so you open a joint bank account. You contribute money, your dad contributes money, and you both make sure the bills get paid. So far, so good. But the day comes eventually when your father eventually dies. You still have this bank account, but can you still get this money? Well, it may be off limits. Or maybe not. The funds may be considered part of your parents' estate and you could be denied the funds. I started off the conversation by asking about this kind of thing with Nicole Ewing. She's a business succession advisor and tax and estate planner at TD Wealth, and asked her, can I really not touch this money?
So you may be able to access it from the bank's perspective if you're both down as joint owners on the account and you're the one owner passes, and as a survivor, you are the owner of this account. And so for the most part, unless they've had any warning not to agree to this, you as a surviving holder would take the account. But whether or not you can actually use those funds, whether or not you have a duty to anybody, that's the big question. So you do have an obligation, there's presumptions that apply. And whether or not you have the true right to those funds after the fact will very mumuch depend on the specific facts of the case.
So give me a little more on that. What are these presumptions?
So the presumption now, so as between couples, if we're making assets joint, the presumption is that we intended a right of survivorship. When a parent transfers assets into a joint account with an adult child, the presumption is that that was done for convenience purposes only and was not a true transfer of the beneficial interest in that property. And so as the surviving owner of that account, what you truly have is you hold that account in trust for either the estate or the other beneficiaries. And now that's the presumption.
Right. And I guess the presumption means, just in plain language for me, that that money cannot be used by me for what I want because it's the money of my father's estate.
Exactly.
And there could be other obligations.
Exactly. So you are not the beneficial owner. You don't. That money is not yours. You're actually holding it for the benefit of other people.
So we might have set this up for convenience and created a huge inconvenience after the fact.
It could be. Now, so you had mentioned that that they had both contributed funds, and so that. When I talk about the presumption that it's going to be held, that you're only holding it for the estate, if you've both contributed to it, then it could be that's evidence perhaps that there was in fact a true joint account made and that those are in fact your funds, and the intention was to create that relationship, but you need to be able to evidence that.
Yeah, and if you weren't, and let's say a slightly different scenario, I know lots of people do this where they help their elderly parents manage paying bills, those kinds of things, so they're on the account, but they may not contribute funds. They may just do things for them.
Right.
Okay, what should I have done?
So it really depends on what the intention was. If the intention was strictly for convenience purposes only, then I suppose what was done is fine. But if the intent was to really make a gift, then we want to have a deed of gift. We want to have written documentation proving what the intent was.
Saying that, in this case, my father put the money in the account for me.
And he intends that you will have those funds upon his death.
Right.
So anytime there's an exchange of assets between people, we want to see documentation evidencing what the intent was. So if it's a sale, we want to see essentially a receipt, right? Or a bill of sale or an agreement. If it's a gift, we want a deed of gift that outlines this was my intent to give these funds. If it's not a gift and it's the other scenario where it is being held in trust, a declaration of trust is an ideal document to put in place as well. So something so that after the fact, when CRA or other beneficiaries of the estate are asking, whose funds are these? We have documentation.
So this deed of gift you talked about, is this a big deal? Like, is this something, can I just write down, like, if it's like, $5,000, can I say, hey, this money is for, and date it and sign it? Is that good? What if it's a larger amount?
It could be good enough. It could be good enough. If it's substantial, we want the documentation to really match whatever the consequences are. So if it's if you're gifting a house, we want to see that
back of a napkin
written
will
down.
do.
But all else being equal, if there's funds being a small gift, then just document it, and that can come in handy for other purposes as well. So, if my intention is to split my asset equally between my children, and I've given gifts over time to one child and not the other, I can include provisions in my will, for example, a hodgepodge clause that says I intend for all my assets to be divided equally, taking into consideration any assets that I left or that I transferred during my lifetime. And then we have these deeds of gift that evidence that and allow the executor then to equalize the assets at that time.
You've heard, I know, a number of stories where stuff like this has been going on, and you've got one in particular where you think a deed of gift would have been so much more useful had it put in place.
It happens all the time, and just very recently I was speaking with a family where the mother had made the assets joint with daughter, who was really the primary caregiver. Typed an account about $200,000 in it. Mom has since passed. Daughter is claiming that those funds are hers. And the other siblings are saying, no, they're not. That presumption that we spoke of, you were just helping Mom out. That was never intended to be a gift to you. And now we're fighting it out.
So deed of gift would have solved that.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Let me ask you, the deed of gift sounds like it's an essential tool for someone who is, when you're managing elderly parents and in the event that they pass on, but is it useful in other scenarios?
Sure. So, what a deed of gift really is an outline of what your intent was. And for example, in Ontario, between married couples, if I receive an inheritance or a gift during my relationship, during my marriage, that's excluded from the net family property calculation if there's a breakdown in marriage. So I don't have to share it, that's mine. But what's not excluded is any gain on those funds. So if I receive, say I receive $100,000, I put it into my investments and I've earned another $100,000 on it, that gain is not excluded unless the person who gifted me those funds has explicitly said that they also want the gain, the interest to be excluded. So a deed of gift outlining that I've made this gift and a gift of any future gains on that is my intent that that's excluded. So very useful documents.
Nicole Ewing, smart woman, business succession advisor and tax estate planner with TD Wealth.